Right, so we are delaminating this mold from the molding, or molding from the mold, however you want to put it. And this is basically a skateboard. We're duplicating this board here. Kid's mom ran over the board, so while he's away for summer vacation, basically going to remake the board. I won't be able to do the screen print, obviously, because chances of finding that pattern anymore at the local store is going to be unlikely. But we are here in Alaska, and this is an Alaskan print. So, by any chance, maybe we'll get lucky and we can restore it. Or, I thought maybe possibly doing a custom paint job. It's a good paying job, this particular one. I'm using material I bought quite a while ago, so the roving here, I haven't had a chance to really use it because I put the airplane job on hold, and so basically I got a bunch of material that I've already invested laying around that I want to use up. So ultimately, yeah, I have some overhead in this, but after everything's all said and done, I'm gonna have about $100 worth of resin put into this, and then about $30 worth of material. So as far as glass, in terms of labor, yeah, I got a lot more time than that involved. So yeah, the cost of this job is mostly labor. Unfortunately, my quote was insufficient. I couldn't justify having her pay more than that. The board was made by the kid's grandpa, so there's a bit of sentimental value, which is why I'm actually building a new one that he can use. And then I'm going to epoxy the broken fragments in his board. I'm just going to basically inject a bunch of resin into there and repress it into this mold that will reform it, but it's not going to have the same structural properties. So out of the kindness of my heart, I cast that mold, told the lady I'd build him a brand new board. So so this is essentially going to be about a $600 skateboard when it's all said and done. I'm going to reuse the hardware. It's basically just going to be a new board. So it's a pretty light mold. It's not very thick. It's a lot of curves, a lot of tight radiuses, so it's a little challenging, but it's coming out pretty good. I got about halfway. It's delaminated about up to here, so about 60% of the way there. Sometimes you can kind of get a screwdriver between the mold, but there's really not much leverage, so you need a block of wood in there. And you don't want to do it too hard, because here's the thing about these molds. So when you're new in the business, you're going to have kind of a hard time having your own product. And yeah, I'll be right back in a minute. All right, sorry about that. So when you're really starting off in the business, molds are expensive, especially if you're starting from scratch. But if you could take a product that hasn't been copyrighted or something of that sort, it has no there we go, has no copyrights or anything like that, you basically just find something you like, cast it, and remake it. So this board is fully cured on this side. It's a little tacky on the outside here. Kind of see we got just the right amount of resin in there. It's very nice, very perfect. I don't really see any air bubbles. Yeah, there's a couple in there. Shoot, but yeah, it's actually it'll be very strong. I didn't vacuum infuse this, and I really wish I had. Basically, I didn't vacuum infuse because I'm using some chopped mat in between the layers of roving, and so essentially, if this was anything else, I probably would just slid it into a bag, sealed it up, and then infused it with the resin. But I decided I wanted more invasive process of handling it up with this resin and with this mold to make sure everything's perfect. Plus I wanted to put the chopped stranded to help make sure there's as strong of a bond as possible. I have not had an issue with multiple layers of the roving delaminating. It has been known to delaminate, but when I vacuum infuse it, the process I use, I've yet to have one delaminate, and that's not due to a lack of experience or a lack of product. It's just the process I use is way overkill for most things. It's not just simply put it in the mold, vacuum bag it, infuse resin and let it cure. There's actually a very specific cure process I use for my aircraft parts that literally the whole block, it's almost impossible for it to delaminate. I use basically, I have my own load shear apparatus. It's a digital load shear apparatus, so it'll give me very specific travel, and it'll give me very specific loads when I'm breaking apart to test it. And I can stop the test anytime I want. I can relieve the tension, add more. So it's not a mechanical load shear test. It's digital. It reads it to the computer as I'm doing it, and I've gotten the best results with that. So it looks like we have a couple of dry spots. No big deal. Ultimately, we're gonna let this finish curing up. I might put it in the enclave. I'm not sure. Maybe not. So I do definitely have some spots here. So this layer here, this first layer here, is actually chopped stranded, and I did that to kind of get the best fix to the mold and try to fill as much of that cavity. As you can see how tight that radius is. I mean, it was really tough getting it in there and getting it to stay down in there as one piece. So basically, all these is one big piece. All the chopped stranded was basically from length to length, one big piece. And then along the edges here, I got about 1.5 inches of matting and went along the edge. At that point, the roving itself, one big solid piece. I cut slits in it here, you can see, to help it conform around the edges, but the roving, being that's what the structure is made of, or the structural part of the board is made up of the roving. That's actually, every piece of roving is one solid piece. So, kind of repeating myself here. We have 4 layers of roving, and I believe 4 layers of matting. So, estimated thickness, probably about 3/8 thick. I was kind of going for 1/4 inch, and it probably would have been 1/4 inch if it was vacuum infused. But as I'm putting my hands, that's a lot thicker than that's a lot thicker than 1/4 inch. Yeah, so the target was actually 1/4 inch, so that I could basically, it's trimmed up, do the top piece over there, and then what I'll do is I'll trim off the excess and put a recess in about a 45-degree bevel on the inside of this piece and on the outside of that piece, and they'll fit together like a glove. At that point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in this section here, roll it over. So in this section here, this is where the wheels attach. What I'm going to do is get I'm going to actually fill it with foam. I'm going to inject foam. So I'll spread some foam out real nice and thin, about a 1/16 of an inch, roughly, kind of give or take a little bit. So I'm going to just basically take a squeegee and cut some notches in it to allow it to flow better. But I'll mix up some 2-pound foam. I'll fill this whole thing in with about a 1/16 layer. Close it up real quick, clamp it in place, and then I'm going to let that cure. Once it's done curing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to notch this out. I'm going to basically oh shit, what's the term? um, I'm going to hog this strip out here and just down to about here. So this is where your feet go, here and here. Do the same thing to this side, and that way the load be transferred directly to the wheels as easily as possible, but allowing the middle to relatively stay flexible for more controllability. So you get a lot more control out of a more flexible board. So you don't want it too stiff, but you definitely want it strong. So it's kind of a nice board, you know, and it's definitely a creative board. It definitely will curve your foot, give you a lot of control. It's not a flat board, it's dished, you know, here and here, and it kind of raises up here. So it'd make a real nice ride. So I'll probably hold on to the mold. If the kid likes it, I'm gonna see if maybe I can work out a deal where I can make more of these boards. And then I thought about being nice and do a cool paint job, but I'm not that far yet. So anyhow, guys, that was just basically a process of delaminating a mold. I know I'll do a quick clip on that as well here coming up. So hold on.